Lucas Bennett had everything: wealth, success, and 5,000 acres of prime farmland. But when Emma Taylor, the only woman he'd ever loved, returns after 10 years with twin boys who have his eyes, his world shifts. Can he win back the family? He never knew he had. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Lucas Bennett stood on the front porch of his sprawling farmhouse, looking out over acres of perfectly tended fields. The morning sun cast a golden glow across his empire. 5,000 acres of the most productive farmland in the county. His workers were already busy, tiny figures moving across distant fields on expensive equipment that Lucas had purchased without blinking an eye. At 45, Lucas had everything a man could want. Or at least, that's what he told himself every morning when he woke up alone in his king-sized bed. "Mr. Bennett," called Martha, his housekeeper of 15 years. "Your coffee is ready?" Lucas nodded without turning around. "Thank you, Martha." He heard her footsteps retreat back into the house. Martha was reliable, efficient, and kept his household running smoothly. She was also the closest thing he had to family these days. Lucas sighed and ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. Despite all his success, the profitable farms, the prize-winning livestock, the investments that had turned his family's modest property into an agricultural powerhouse, something was missing. No amount of money could fill the emptiness that had settled in his chest 10 years ago when Emma walked out, Emma Taylor. Even thinking her name brought a familiar ache. The only woman he'd ever loved, the only person who'd seen past his ambition to the man underneath. The woman who'd left him after that terrible fight, when his pride had gotten in the way of his heart. Lucas took a final look at his property before turning to go inside. He had a meeting with his farm managers in 20 minutes and a call with his investment advisor after that. No time for dwelling on the past. 3 hours later, Lucas was in his office reviewing quarterly reports when Martha knocked on his door. "Mr. Bennett, there's someone here to see you." Lucas frowned. He wasn't expecting visitors. "Who is it?" "A woman. She says her name is Emma Taylor." The pen in Lucas's hand clattered to the desk. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. "Emma." Martha nodded, her expression concerned. "Should I tell her you're busy?" "No," Lucas said quickly, standing up. His heart hammered against his ribs. "No, show her in." Martha hesitated. "She's not alone, sir. She has children with her." Lucas felt his world tilt. Children. Emma had children. The thought made him dizzy. He gripped the edge of his desk to steady himself. "Show them in," he repeated, his voice hoarse. Martha disappeared and Lucas smoothed down his shirt, suddenly aware of his appearance. Did he look older? Of course he did. It had been 10 years, 10 years without seeing her face, hearing her voice. 10 years of regret. The door opened and there she was. Emma Taylor looked different, yet exactly the same. Her honey blonde hair was shorter now, falling just past her shoulders. Fine lines had appeared at the corners of her eyes, but those eyes, those deep blue eyes that had once looked at him with so much love, were unmistakable. She was still beautiful, still the woman who had haunted his dreams for a decade. "Hello, Lucas," she said softly. Lucas opened his mouth to respond, but the words died in his throat as his gaze moved from Emma to the two small figures standing beside her. Boys. Twin boys, about 9 years old, with dark hair just like his, with his strong jaw and straight nose, with his eyes, the exact same shade of hazel that looked back at him from the mirror every morning. His knees went weak. He gripped the desk harder. "These are my sons," Emma said, placing her hands on the boys' shoulders. "Jason and James." The world narrowed to those two small faces, staring up at him with curiosity and wariness. His sons. He had sons. The realization crashed over him like a wave, leaving him struggling for air. "Your sons?" he managed to say, though his voice didn't sound like his own. Emma's expression hardened slightly. "Yes, our sons. Lucas, our sons." The words echoed in his head. "Our sons? Why don't you boys go with Martha to the kitchen?" Emma suggested, glancing at the housekeeper who still stood in the doorway. I'm sure she can find you something to eat. Martha, bless her, understood immediately. I just baked chocolate chip cookies, she said warmly, and I think we have some milk too. The boys looked uncertainly at their mother. It's okay, Emma assured them. I need to talk to Mr. Bennett alone. I'll be right here. Mr. Bennett. Not Lucas, not Dad. Mr. Bennett. The boys followed Martha out, and suddenly Lucas was alone with Emma for the first time in 10 years. They're mine? He asked, though he already knew the answer. The resemblance was undeniable. Yes. Why? Didn't you tell me? His voice rose despite his attempt to control it. 10 years, Emma, 10 years! Emma's eyes flashed. I did try to tell you, Lucas. I called you every day for 2 weeks after I left. You never picked up. You never called back. Lucas remembered those calls. He'd seen her name on his phone screen and ignored it. Too hurt, too angry, too proud. To answer, I wrote you a letter, Emma continued. I sent it certified mail so I'd know you received it. You signed for it. Did you even read it? Lucas closed his eyes. The letter. He remembered now. It had arrived about a month after she left. He'd been so determined to move on, to show her that he didn't need her, that he'd thrown it in a drawer without opening it. I didn't read it, he admitted. Emma's laugh was bitter. Of course you didn't. Your pride always did come first. Lucas sank into his chair, the weight of his mistake pressing down on him. I never imagined you were pregnant. Well, I was. With twins. Emma crossed her arms. And after all my attempts to contact you failed, I decided to raise them on my own. For 10 years, Lucas couldn't keep the accusation from his voice. You kept my children from me for 10 years. Don't you dare, Emma said, her voice low and dangerous. Don't you dare try to make this my fault. I tried to tell you, you refused to listen. Lucas rubbed his face with his hands. She was right. This was on him. His pride, his stubbornness, his refusal to bend. They had cost him a decade with his sons. Why now? He asked, looking up at her. Why come to me now after all this time? Emma's stance softened slightly. The boys have been asking about their father. I've always told them the truth, that you didn't know about them, that it wasn't your fault you weren't in their lives. She sighed. But they're getting older. They deserve to know you, if you want to know them. If I want to... Lucas stood, abruptly. Of course I want to know them. They're my sons. Are they? Emma challenged. Or are they just another possession to add to your collection? Another part of this empire you've built? Her words struck him like physical blows. That's not fair, isn't it? The Lucas I knew was always more concerned with his next acquisition than with the people around him. Has that changed? Had it? Lucas wanted to say yes, but the truth was more complicated. His success had come at a price. He'd thrown himself into work after Emma left, using money and achievement to fill the void she'd left behind. I can provide for them, he said finally. Whatever they need. Private schools. College funds, cars when they're older. Stop, Emma cut him off. They don't need your money, Lucas. They've never needed your money. Then what do they need? Lucas asked, frustration building inside him. Emma's gaze was steady. They need a father, not a bank account, not a name on a birth certificate, a father who shows up for baseball games and helps with homework and teaches them how to be good men. Lucas sat back, her words sinking in. A father. Could he be that? He barely remembered his own father, who had died when Lucas was young. He had no model to follow, no example to guide him. I don't know how, he admitted quietly. Something in Emma's expression softened. No one does at first. You learn as you go. Hope, small but persistent, bloomed in Lucas's chest. Will you give me a chance to learn, to be part of their lives? Emma hesitated. That depends on you, Lucas. I didn't come here for your money. I didn't come here to disrupt your life. I came because my sons, our sons, deserve to know their father if he's willing to be the man they need. Lucas swallowed hard. And what about you? Is there any chance for us? Emma's expression closed off. I'm here for the boys, Lucas. That's all. The hope in his chest dimmed but didn't extinguish completely. One step at a time, he told himself. Win back his sons first. Then maybe he could win back their mother. Can I meet them? He asked. Properly, I mean. Emma nodded. That's why we're here. She turned toward the door, but Lucas reached out and caught her arm. The touch sent electricity through him, familiar and new all at once. Emma, wait. He took a deep breath. I'm sorry for everything. For the fight, for not answering your calls, for not reading your letter, for missing 10 years of their lives, of your life. I was wrong. For a moment, Emma's composure cracked, and he glimpsed the pain beneath. Yes, you were, she said softly. Then she gently pulled away from his touch and opened the door. Come on, your sons are waiting. Justice and Martha had set the boys up at the kitchen table with cookies, milk, and Lucas noticed with amusement. Napkins they were dutifully using. Good manners. Emma had taught them well. They looked up when Lucas and Emma entered, their identical faces curious. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. They had his features, his coloring, but there was something of Emma in them too, in the shape of their eyes, in the way they held themselves. Boys, Emma said, this is Lucas Bennett. Lucas's throat tightened. What should he say? What could he possibly say to these children who shared his blood, but were strangers to him? Hello, he managed. The boys glanced at each other, some silent. Twin communication, before the one on the left spoke. I'm Jason, he said. And I'm James, added his brother. It's very nice to meet you both, Lucas said, wincing at how formal he sounded. Another twin glance. Then Jason asked, Are you really our dad? The directness of the question caught Lucas off guard. He looked at Emma, who nodded slightly. Yes, he said. I am. How come we never met you before? James asked. Lucas felt Emma tense beside him, ready to intervene, but he shook his head slightly. They deserved the truth, or as much of it as they could understand. Because I made a mistake, he said, pulling out a chair and sitting across from them. A big one. Your mom tried to tell me about you, but I wasn't listening. That was wrong of me. The boys seem to consider this. Mom says everyone makes mistakes, Jason offered. She says what matters is what you do after. Such simple wisdom, delivered so earnestly. Lucas felt something crack, open inside him. Your mom is very smart, he said, and she's right. I'm hoping I can make up for lost time. If that's okay with you. The twins exchanged another look. Do you know how to fish? James asked. I do, Lucas said, surprised by the question. We've never been fishing, Jason explained. Mom doesn't know. How? Lucas glanced at Emma, who was watching the exchange with an unreadable expression. Well, there's a pond on my property with some pretty good bass. Maybe I could teach you. The boys' faces lit up. Can we, Mum? They asked in unison. Emma hesitated, then nodded. If Mr. Bennett has time. Lucas, he corrected gently. And I have time. He would make time, even if it meant rescheduling every meeting, canceling every call. Nothing was more important than this. When? James pressed. How about tomorrow? Lucas suggested, looking to Emma for approval. After a moment, she nodded. Tomorrow would be fine. Do you have fishing poles? Jason asked. I do, Lucas said, and we can get you your own if you'd like. The twins beamed, and for the first time in 10 years, Lucas felt something close to happiness. Real happiness, not the hollow satisfaction of closing a deal or buying a new piece of equipment. Where are you staying? He asked Emma. The Pine. Motel on Route 16, she replied. Lucas frowned. The Pine Motel was the cheapest lodging in the area and not particularly nice. You don't have to stay there. My house has plenty of room. We're fine at the motel, Emma cut him off. It's not a problem. I said we're fine, Lucas. Her tone left no room for argument. Lucas nodded, accepting the boundary she was setting. What time should I pick you up tomorrow? For fishing? We can drive ourselves, Emma said. What time works for you? Lucas thought about his schedule for the next day. Meetings he could cancel, calls he could reschedule. Is 10 o'clock too early? 10 is fine, Emma agreed. The boys had finished their cookies and milk, and Emma checked her watch. We should go. We still need to get settled at the motel. Can't we stay longer? Jason asked. Not today, Emma said firmly. Mr. Bennett, Lucas, Is busy. No, I'm not, Lucas said quickly. You're welcome to stay. Emma gave him a look that said she knew better. You run a large farm, Lucas. I'm sure you have work to do. She was right, of course. His email was piling up. His farm managers were waiting for decisions and he had calls to return, but none of it seemed important compared to the two boys looking at him with his own eyes. Work can wait, he said. Emma raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. Well, we need to go anyway. We have to unpack and get dinner. Have dinner here, Lucas offered, the words tumbling out before he could think better of them. Martha is an excellent cook, and there's always more than enough. Emma hesitated, and Lucas could see her weighing the options. She clearly didn't want to accept his hospitality, but the boys were looking at her hopefully. Please, Mum? James pleaded. We didn't have a real lunch, Jason added. Just snacks on the drive. Emma sighed. All right, dinner. But then we need to go. Lucas tried not to look too victorious. Martha, would you mind? Already planning on it, Mr. Bennett. Martha called from where she was wiping down counters. Pot roast with potatoes and carrots, green beans from the garden, and apple pie for dessert. That sounds wonderful, Lucas said, honestly grateful for her efficiency. Thank you. Can we see the farm? Jason asked suddenly. Lucas brightened. Would you like a tour? I have tractors, combines, a barn full of equipment, and animals. James interrupted. Do you have animals? Some, Lucas said. Mostly work horses and a few cattle. Nothing exotic, I'm afraid. Horses? The boy's eyes widened. Real horses? Lucas chuckled. Yes, real horses. Would you like to see them? Yes, they exclaimed together. Lucas looked at Emma, silently asking permission. She hesitated, then nodded. I suppose a short tour wouldn't hurt. Great, Lucas said, his heart lighter than it had been in years. Let's go meet the horses. As they headed out of the kitchen, Lucas caught Emma watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Caution, perhaps, mixed with something else. Hope, longing, he couldn't be sure. But as he led his sons, out to see the farm that would one day be theirs, Lucas made a silent promise. He would prove to Emma that he had changed. He would be the father these boys deserved. And maybe, just maybe, he could be the man Emma had once loved. It wouldn't be easy. 10 years was a long time, and trust, once broken, was hard to rebuild. But looking at those two small faces, so like his own, Lucas knew that nothing in his life had ever been more worth fighting for. The sun was beginning to set over his fields, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. His empire, built with determination and hard work, stretched out before him. For the first time, Lucas saw it not as a testament to his own success, but as a legacy he could pass on, a home for the family he never knew he had. Tomorrow they would go fishing. It was a small step, but it was a beginning, and for now that was enough. The next morning, Lucas woke before dawn, something he did every day without fail. But today was different. Today he wasn't getting up early to review reports or check on crops. Today he was taking his sons fishing. His sons. The word still felt strange in his mind, wonderful and terrifying all at once. He had children, 2 boys he'd never known existed until yesterday. 2 boys who had his eyes, his smile, his stubborn chin. 2 boys who had grown up without him. Lucas showered and dressed, choosing jeans and a casual button-down shirt instead of his usual work clothes. He wanted to look like a regular dad, not a wealthy farmer who spent more time with spreadsheets than people. In the kitchen, Martha was already preparing breakfast. You're up early, she noted, sliding a cup of coffee across the counter to him. Couldn't sleep, Lucas admitted, taking a grateful sip. The boys are coming over to go fishing today. Martha smiled. Those 2 are something else, aren't they? Spitting image of you at that age. Lucas looked up in surprise. You remember me at that age? Of course I do, Martha said, cracking eggs into a bowl. I worked for your parents before I worked for you, remember? You were 9 when I started in this house. Lucas had forgotten that. Martha had been part of his life for so long that sometimes he took her presence for granted. What was I like, he asked, curious. At their age, Martha chuckled. Stubborn as a mule. Always into everything. Your poor mother could hardly keep up with you." She paused in her whisking. "You were a good boy, though. Kind-hearted, when you weren't being too proud for your own good." Lucas winced at that last part. His pride. It had cost him so much. "Do you think I can be a good father, Martha?" The question slipped out before he could stop it. Martha's expression softened. "I think you can be if you put those boys first. If you remember what's really important." Lucas nodded, taking her words to heart. "I'm going to try." "That's all any of us can do," Martha said wisely, turning back to her cooking. "Now, I'm making a picnic lunch for you all. Fried chicken, potato salad. Those chocolate brownies the boys seemed to like yesterday. Should be ready by the time they get here." "Thank you, Martha." Lucas hesitated, then added, "For everything." Martha waved him off, but he could see she was pleased. "Go on now, make sure those fishing poles are ready. Those boys will be here before you know it." Lucas spent the next 2 hours getting everything ready. He pulled out 4 fishing poles from the storage shed, his old one, a spare, and 2 smaller ones that had belonged to his nephew during a visit last summer. He checked each one carefully, making sure the lines were good and the reels worked smoothly. Next, he drove his truck down to the pond to make sure it was suitable for fishing with children. The wooden dock was solid, the water level was good, and he could see fish swimming beneath the surface. Perfect. By the time he drove back to the house, it was nearly 10 o'clock. He parked and walked to the front porch, nervously straightening his shirt as he watched the road for signs of Emma's car. At exactly 10, a modest silver sedan turned into his driveway. Lucas's heart jumped into his throat. Emma parked near the A house, and the boys tumbled out almost before the car had stopped, their excitement visible even from a distance. They were dressed in jeans and t-shirts, sneakers on their feet, baseball caps on their heads. "Lucas!" they called in unison, racing toward him. Lucas couldn't help smiling at their enthusiasm. "Good morning, boys." "Are we really going fishing?" Jason asked. "Do we get to keep the fish?" James wanted to know. "Yes, we're really going fishing," Lucas assured them. "And yes, we can keep the fish if you want. Martha can cook them for dinner." The twins high-fived each other, then turned back to where Emma was approaching at a more sedate pace. "Mum, we get to keep the fish," Jason informed her. Emma smiled at her sons, though her expression cooled slightly when she looked at Lucas. "That's nice. Did you thank Lucas for taking you fishing?" "Thank you," the boys chorused dutifully. "You're very welcome," Lucas said. He nodded at Emma. "Good morning." "Morning," she replied, her tone polite but distant. She looked lovely in simple jeans and a light blue blouse that matched her eyes. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she wore minimal makeup. Lucas found himself staring and quickly looked away. "Martha's packed a lunch for us," he said. "I thought we could make a day of it. The pond is about a half-mile from here, but we can drive down in my truck." "All of us?" Emma asked, raising an eyebrow. "In your truck?" Lucas realized the potential awkwardness. His truck only had 3 seats in the front. "You could ride in the front with me and the boys could sit in the truck bed. It's not far and I'll drive slowly." Emma frowned. "I don't think—" "Please, Mom," the twins begged. "We've never ridden in a truck bed before. It's not safe," Emma protested. "I'll drive very carefully," Lucas promised. 5 miles an hour tops, and the truck bed has side rails. Emma looked torn between maternal caution and not wanting to disappoint her sons. Finally, she sighed. "All right, but very slowly. And boys, you have to sit down the whole time, understand? No standing up. We promise," they exclaimed eagerly. Lucas let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He wanted today to be perfect, and he'd worried that they might get off to a rough start. "Let me grab the fishing gear and the lunch Martha prepared," he said. "Then we can head out." 10 minutes later, they were all loaded into Lucas's truck, the boys sitting cross-legged. In the truck bed with the fishing poles and tackle box, and Emma perched stiffly beside Lucas in the front seat. The closeness was both wonderful and torture. He could smell her perfume, the same light floral scent she'd worn 10 years ago. As promised, Lucas drove very slowly down the dirt road that led to the pond. In the rearview mirror, he could see the twins pointing excitedly at everything they passed, the fields of corn stretching to the horizon, the big red barn in the distance, The tractor parked at the edge of a pasture. "Your farm is huge," Emma remarked, breaking the silence between them. "It's grown a lot over the years," Lucas agreed. "My father only had about 500 acres when I was growing up. Now it's 10 times that size." "You've done well for yourself," Emma said, and Lucas couldn't tell if there was criticism in her voice or simply observation. "Financially, yes," he admitted. "In other ways," he trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. Emma glanced at him but said nothing. They reached the pond, a 3-acre expanse of water surrounded by willow trees and cattails. A small wooden dock extended about 15 feet into the water, with a simple bench at the end. The boys were out of the truck almost before it stopped, racing toward the water's edge. "Careful," Emma called after them. "Don't get too close to the edge until we're with you." The twins obediently stopped a few feet from the water, bouncing with excitement. Lucas grabbed the fishing gear and the picnic basket, and Emma took a large blanket Martha had packed. Together they walked to where the boys were waiting. "All right," Lucas said, setting down his burdens. "First things first, let's talk about fishing safety." He spent the next 15 minutes explaining the basics: how to hold a fishing pole, how to stay safe around water, what to do if they got a hook caught in their clothing, or worse, their skin. The boys listened attentively, eager to learn. When he was satisfied they understood the safety rules, Lucas showed them how to bait their hooks with the worms he'd dug up that morning. "Ew," Jason said, though he was grinning as he said it. "They're slimy." "They sure are," Lucas agreed, demonstrating how to thread the worm onto the hook. "But fish love 'em." James was the first to try it himself, his small fingers surprisingly deft. "Like this?" he asked. "Perfect," Lucas said, feeling a surge of pride at his son's quick learning. "Now you, Jason." Jason took a bit longer, his face scrunched in concentration, but eventually he managed to bait his hook too. Lucas beamed at them both. "Great job, you're naturals." Emma, who had been watching from a few feet away, caught his eye and gave him a small smile, the first genuine one she'd directed at him since her arrival. Lucas's heart leapt. It was a tiny gesture, but it felt like progress. With their hooks baited, Lucas led the boys out onto the dock. "Okay, now I'll show you how to cast. Watch me first," he demonstrated with his own pole, sending the line arcing gracefully through the air to land with a soft plop about 20 feet from the dock. The boys watched with wide eyes. "Can I try?" James asked eagerly. "Me too," added Jason. "One at a time," Lucas said. "James, you go first." Then Jason. James's first cast wasn't pretty. The line only went about 10 feet before plopping into the water. But the grin on his face when he succeeded made Lucas's chest tight with emotion. Jason went next, and his cast went a bit farther. The boys were jubilant, high-fiving each other again. "Now we wait," Lucas told them, settling onto the bench. The twins sat on either side of him, their fishing poles gripped tightly in their hands. Emma spread the blanket on the grassy bank near the dock and sat down watching them. She had brought a book, Lucas noticed, but she wasn't reading it. For a while they all sat in companionable silence, the only sounds the gentle lapping of water against the dock posts and the occasional call of a bird overhead. Lucas couldn't remember the last time he'd felt so at peace. "How long does it take for the fish to bite?" Jason asked after about 10 minutes. "Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes a while," Lucas explained. "Fishing teaches you patience. Mom says we're not very good at patience," James confided in a stage whisper. Lucas chuckled. "Well, it's something you learn with practice." As if on cue, James's fishing pole jerked, suddenly in his hands. "Something's pulling." "You've got a bite," Lucas exclaimed. "Hold on tight now and start reeling it in slowly." James's face was a picture of concentration as he reeled in his line. Lucas resisted the urge to take over, letting his son do it himself while offering encouragement and advice. "I see it," Jason shouted, pointing at the water where a fish was thrashing. "It's huge." It wasn't huge, a modest base, maybe a pound, but to the boys it clearly seemed enormous. Lucas helped James lift the fish out of the water, showing him how to hold it without hurting it. "I caught a fish," James announced proudly, holding it up for Emma to see. "Mom, look, I caught a fish!" I see that, Emma called from the shore, her face split in a wide smile. Great job, honey. Do you want to keep it or let it go? Lucas asked him. James considered the question seriously. Can we keep it? I want to. Eat it. Absolutely, Lucas said. One fish down, a few more to go for a good dinner. Let's put it in the bucket with some water to keep it fresh. After securing James's catch in a bucket of pond water, Lucas helped him rebait his hook and cast. So again, then they settled back to wait. Dad, can you tell us about the farm? Jason asked, the word Dad slipping out so naturally that it took Lucas a moment to register what he'd said. Dad. His son had called him Dad. Lucas glanced at Emma, who looked as surprised as he felt. She gave a small nod, telling him it was... Okay, well, Lucas began, his voice a little thick with emotion. This farm has been in our family for 3 generations. My grandfather bought the first piece of land back in 1945, after he came home from the war. The boys listened, fascinated, as Lucas told them about how the farm had grown over the years, about the crops they grew, and the animals they raised. He told them funny stories about his own childhood on the farm, like the time he'd tried to ride a pig and ended up face-first in the mud, or when he'd hidden in the hayloft to avoid chores and fallen asleep, causing a frantic search. The boys laughed at his stories, their fishing momentarily forgotten. Even Emma, listening from the shore, smiled at some of the tales. Did you always know you wanted to be a farmer? Jason asked. Lucas nodded. Farming is in my blood. I love watching things grow, being connected to the land. Is that why you're so rich? James asked bluntly. Because you're good at farming? Lucas felt Emma tense even from a distance, but he just smiled. I've been fortunate, he said carefully. I worked hard, made some good decisions, and yes, I've done well financially. But money isn't everything, boys. I'm learning that more and more. He caught Emma's eye as he said this last part, and something passed between them. An acknowledgement, perhaps of the mistakes he'd made in prioritizing success over love. Before the conversation could go further, Jason's pole suddenly bent double. I got one, he shouted. The next hour passed in a blur of activity. Both boys caught several more fish, and Lucas showed them how to clean them for cooking. By noon, they had enough for a good dinner, and everyone was ready for lunch. They moved to the blanket Emma had spread, and Lucas opened the picnic basket Martha had prepared. There was fried chicken, potato salad, fresh biscuits, sliced watermelon, and brownies for dessert. This looks amazing, Emma said, helping herself to some chicken. Martha is quite the cook. She is, Lucas agreed. I'd be lost without her. Does she live at the house? James asked, his mouth already full of potato salad. Don't talk with your mouth full, Emma reminded him gently. James swallowed. Sorry, Mum. To answer your question, Lucas said, no, Martha lives in town with her husband. She's worked for my family since I was about your age. That's a long time, Jason observed. Lucas laughed. Yes, I guess it is. The conversation flowed easily. Throughout lunch, the initial awkwardness between Lucas and Emma giving way to a careful politeness for the sake of the boys. The twins were full of questions about the farm, about Lucas's childhood, about everything they could think to ask. After lunch, they played a game of catch with a baseball Lucas had thought to bring along. Then the boys wanted to explore the area around the pond, with Lucas and Emma following behind as they examined frogs, collected interesting rocks, and generally behaved like typical 9-year-old boys. By mid-afternoon, the twins were showing signs of tiredness after their active day. We should probably head back, Emma suggested, noticing James trying to stifle a yawn. Can't we stay a little longer? Jason pleaded. Yeah, Dad said we could eat the fish for dinner, James added. There it was again, Dad. Lucas felt a warmth spread through his chest at the sound of it. We can still have the fish for dinner, Lucas assured them. But your mom's right. It's getting late, and Martha will need time to prepare the fish. The boys reluctantly agreed, and they all packed up their gear and the remains of their picnic. As Lucas loaded everything back into his truck, he couldn't help noticing how much more relaxed Emma seemed now compared to that morning. The drive back to the house was filled with the boys' excited chatter about their day. When they arrived, Lucas helped them carry their catch to the kitchen, where Martha exclaimed appropriately over the size and number of fish they'd caught. "These will make a fine dinner," she told the twins, who beamed with pride. "Why don't you boys go wash up while I get started?" As the twins raced off to clean up, Lucas turned to Emma. "Will you stay for dinner?" he asked, trying not to sound too eager. Emma hesitated. "I don't know, Lucas. We've already imposed on your whole day." "It's not an imposition," Lucas said, quickly. "I've had the best day I can remember in 10 years, actually." Emma's expression softened slightly at that. "The boys have had a wonderful time." "And you?" Lucas dared to ask. "Have you had a terrible day stuck with me?" The corner of Emma's mouth twitched upward. "It wasn't terrible," she admitted. Lucas grinned. "High praise indeed." Emma rolled her eyes, but she was smiling too. "All right, we'll stay for dinner. But then we really need to get back to the motel. The boys have school tomorrow." Lucas's smile faded. "School, but you just got here." "They're enrolled in the local elementary school," Emma explained. "Just for the last few weeks of the year, I thought it would be good for them to finish out the school year here while we figure things out." Lucas felt a surge of hope. "So you're staying? In town, I mean?" Emma nodded. "For now. I rented a small house on Maple Street. We move in next week when the current tenants leave." "Emma, that's wonderful," Lucas exclaimed. Then, seeing her expression, he moderated his tone. "I mean, I'm glad you'll be around, so I can get to know the boys better." "That's the plan," Emma said. She paused, then added, "Lucas, we need to talk about how this is going to work going forward. The boys are clearly attaching to you already. Is that a bad thing?" Lucas asked, suddenly nervous. "No," Emma said. "It's what I hoped would happen. But we need to set some boundaries, establish some routines. They need stability." "Of course," Lucas agreed immediately. "Whatever you think is best. I just want to be part of their lives." Emma studied him for a moment. "You really mean that, don't you?" "More than anything," Lucas said sincerely. "All right then," Emma said with a small nod. "We'll figure it out together." The twins burst back into the kitchen then, hands freshly washed, full of more questions for Lucas about the farm. The serious conversation was tabled for the moment, but Lucas felt lighter than he had in years. Emma was willing to work with him, to let him be part of their lives. It was more than he had dared to hope for just a day ago. Dinner was a lively affair, with the boys proudly eating the fish they had caught themselves. Martha had prepared them perfectly, along with fresh vegetables from Lucas's garden and homemade rolls that the twins devoured with enthusiasm. "This is the best fish ever," Jason declared, taking another large bite. "That's because you caught it yourself," Lucas told him. "Food always tastes better when you've worked for it." "Is that why you're a farmer?" James asked. "Because the food tastes better?" Lucas laughed. "Partly, and partly because I love seeing the results of hard work. Planting a seed and watching it grow, raising an animal. From birth, there's something special about that." "Could we help?" Jason asked eagerly. "With the farming stuff?" Lucas glanced at Emma, not wanting to overstep. She gave a small nod. "I'd like that," Lucas said. "Maybe you could come over after school sometimes, learn a little about farming." "Can we ride the tractors?" James wanted to know. "Eventually," Lucas promised, "when you're a bit older." The conversation continued through dinner and dessert, a warm apple pie that Martha had prepared that afternoon. By the time they finished eating, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the farmyard, visible through the dining room windows. "We really should go," Emma said, checking her watch. "Boys, go thank Martha for the wonderful dinner while I get our things." The twins obediently went to find Martha in the kitchen while Emma gathered her purse and the boys' jackets. "Thank you for today," she said quietly to Lucas. "You were good with them." Lucas felt a warmth spread through him at her praise. "They're amazing kids, Emma. You've done a wonderful job raising them." Emma's eyes shimmered slightly in the fading light. "It hasn't always been easy." "I wish I'd been there," Lucas said, his voice rough with regret. "All those years, I missed so much." "Yes, you did," Emma acknowledged. There was no accusation in her voice now, just a statement of fact. "But you're here now. That's what matters to them." "And to you?" Lucas dared to ask. Emma looked away. It's complicated, Lucas. It's been a long time and we're different people now. Before Lucas could respond, the twins returned from the kitchen. Martha gave us cookies for tomorrow, Jason announced, holding up a paper bag. That was very nice of her, Emma said. Did you say thank you? Yes, the boys chorused. Good. Now, say goodbye to Lucas, to your dad, and let's head back to the motel. Lucas walked them out to their car, helping the boys into the back seat, while Emma got in the driver's side. When can we see you again? James asked, his face serious. How about after school tomorrow? Lucas suggested, looking to Emma for approval. I could pick you up, show you around the farm some more. Can we, Mom? The twins pleaded. Emma hesitated, then nodded. I suppose that would be all right. I'll write down the school address and dismissal time. She jotted the information on a scrap of paper and handed it to Lucas, their fingers brushing briefly in the exchange. That small touch sent electricity through him, just as it had yesterday in his office. I'll be there, Lucas promised, tucking the paper carefully into his pocket. Be good for your mom, he told the boys, who nodded solemnly. As Emma started the car, Lucas stepped back, watching as his newfound family prepared to leave. It felt wrong somehow, letting them go back to a motel when his house stood empty except for him. Emma, he said impulsively, leaning down to her open window. Are you sure you won't reconsider staying here? There's plenty of room and... No, Lucas, Emma said firmly, though not unkindly. We're fine at the motel until our rental is ready. Lucas nodded, accepting her decision. Drive safely. We will, Emma promised. See you tomorrow, Lucas. Bye. Dad, the twins called as the car pulled away. Lucas stood in his driveway long after the taillights had disappeared down the road, his heart full of conflicting emotions. Joy at finding his sons, regret for the years lost, hope for the future, and beneath it all, a rekindling of feelings for Emma that had never truly died. Tomorrow he would see them again. Tomorrow he would take another step toward becoming the father, and maybe someday the husband he should have been all along. With that thought warming him against the cooling evening air, Lucas turned and walked back to his house, already counting the hours until school let out the next day. The next 2 weeks fell into a comfortable routine. Every afternoon, Lucas picked the twins up from school in his truck, which the boys thought was the coolest thing ever, and brought them back to the farm. They spent those hours exploring the property, learning about farming or simply playing catch in the yard. Emma usually joined them after she finished work at the local library, where she'd taken a temporary position. They would all have dinner together at Lucas's house, with Martha outdoing herself each night to prepare meals that delighted the boys. For Lucas, these were the happiest days he could remember, watching his sons discover the joys of farm life, seeing their excitement over simple things like collecting eggs from the henhouse or helping to feed the horses. It filled a void he hadn't fully recognized until now, but it was Emma who occupied his thoughts in the quiet moments. The way she laughed at the boys' antics, the gentle firmness with which she guided them, the flash of intelligence in her eyes when they discussed books or current events over dinner, all of it reminded him why he had fallen in love with her in the first place. And sometimes, when she thought he wasn't looking, he caught her watching him with an expression that gave him hope. Not quite the love they once shared, but something that might, with time and patience, grow into something new. Today, Lucas was especially excited. Emma and the boys had finally moved from the motel into their rental house on Maple Street, and he had promised to help them get settled. He'd taken the whole day off, something that would have been unimaginable just weeks ago, and was currently loading his truck with housewarming gifts. Do you think they'll like it? He asked Martha, who was carefully packing a basket with fresh bread, homemade jam, and other treats from the farm. The boys will love the toys, Martha assured him, nodding toward the fishing poles, baseball gloves, and other outdoor equipment he'd purchased, and Emma will appreciate the practical things, though I'm not sure about that. She gestured to a large box containing a top-of-the-line coffee maker. Lucas frowned. What's wrong with it? Emma loves coffee. Martha gave him a knowing look. It's very expensive, Mr. Bennett. Miss Emma seems like a woman who values independence. She might see it as what? Lucas asked when Martha trailed off. As you trying to buy your way in, Martha said bluntly. Some women don't want fancy gifts. They want time, attention, respect. Lucas considered this. Martha was right. Emma had made it clear from the beginning that she didn't want his money. She wanted him to be a father to their sons, not a bank account. Maybe you're right, he admitted, lifting the coffee maker out of the truck. I'll save this for another time. Martha smiled approvingly. A wise choice, sir. Now, don't forget. Other flowers. No woman has ever been upset about receiving flowers. Lucas laughed and added the bouquet of wildflowers he'd picked that morning to the basket. Anything else I should know, O wise one? Martha's expression turned serious. Just be yourself, Mr. Bennet. The man those boys are coming to love. The man Miss Emma used to love. Not the wealthy farmer who thinks money can solve everything. Lucas nodded, taking her words to heart. I'll try. The rental house on Maple Street was modest but charming. A 2-story white clapboard with blue shutters and a wraparound porch. As Lucas pulled into the driveway, the front door burst open and the twins raced out to meet him. Dad, you're here, Jason called, reaching the truck first. We have our own rooms, James added excitedly. No more sharing like at the motel. Lucas climbed out of the truck, grinning at their enthusiasm. That's great, your own rooms, huh? Pretty fancy. Mom says we can paint them however we want, Jason said. I'm going to do mine blue. Red for me, James declared. Like fire. Sounds perfect, Lucas said, ruffling their hair. Want to help me? Unload some things from the truck. I brought a few housewarming gifts. The boys eagerly began pulling items from the truck bed, exclaiming over each discovery. When they uncovered the fishing poles and baseball gloves, their eyes widened with delight. Are these for us? James asked, holding up a glove reverently. All yours, Lucas confirmed. I thought we could play some catch in the backyard later. Yes, the boys cheered, high-fiving each other. Lucas looked up to see Emma standing on the porch, watching them with a small smile. She wore jeans and a simple green t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a loose braid. She looked beautiful. You didn't have to bring gifts, she said as he approached with Martha's basket. I wanted to, Lucas replied, stepping onto the porch. Besides, most of it is from Martha. She insisted. Emma accepted the basket, peeking inside. Well, please thank her for me. The boys had been talking non-stop about her. Cooking. Will do. Lucas hesitated, then held out the wildflowers. These are from me. Just something simple from the farm. Emma's expression softened as she took the bouquet. They're lovely, Lucas. Thank you. A comfortable silence fell between them as Emma inhaled the flower's scent. Then she seemed to remember herself and stepped back. Would you like to come in? It's not much, but it's comfortable. I'd love to, Lucas said sincerely. The inside of the house was as modest as the outside. Basic furniture, simple decorations, nothing fancy. But it was clean and bright, with large windows that let in plenty of sunlight. Let me give you the grand tour, Emma said with a touch of irony, clearly aware of how humble her new home was compared to Lucas's sprawling farmhouse. She showed him the small living room with its worn but comfortable-looking sofa, the eat-in kitchen with yellow curtains at the window, and then led him upstairs to see the boys' rooms. Jason and James were already there, arguing good-naturedly about which of their new possessions should go where. They insisted on showing Lucas every corner of their rooms, proudly pointing out the views from their windows and the closets that seemed enormous to them after their previous cramped living situation. And this is my room, Emma said finally, stopping at a door at the end of the hall. She didn't open it, just indicated it with a nod. Nothing special. Lucas wanted to see it, wanted to know where Emma would sleep, what personal touches she might have added, but he respected her unspoken boundary. It's a wonderful house, he said instead. Perfect for you three. It's a rental, Emma reminded him, but yes, it will do nicely until... She trailed off. Until what? Lucas asked, suddenly anxious. Was she planning to leave again once the boys got to know him? Emma sighed. Until we figure out what happens next, Lucas. This is all still very new. Before he could respond, the twins appeared in the hallway. Can we play catch now? Jason asked eagerly. In the backyard? Please, added James. Lucas looked to Emma, who nodded. The backyard is fenced in, she said. You'll be fine out there. For the next hour, Lucas played catch with the boys in the small backyard, teaching them how to throw properly and how to position their gloves to catch the ball. Emma joined them after a while, sitting on the steps of the small back porch, watching with evident pleasure as her sons bonded with their father. When the boys eventually tired of catch, they all went inside for lemonade and cookies that Martha had packed in the basket. The kitchen was sunny and pleasant, though Lucas couldn't help noticing how small it was compared to his own. "Do you like it here?" he asked Emma, when the twins ran back outside to explore the yard further. "It's nice," Emma said, looking around. "The kitchen. The neighborhood is good, the school is within walking distance, and the rent is reasonable." Lucas hesitated, then decided to take a chance. "You know, there's no need for you to pay rent at all. My guest house is sitting empty, and it's much larger than this place. You and the boys would be welcome to—" "No, Lucas," Emma cut him off firmly. "We've discussed this. I'm not going to live on your property, dependent on your charity. It wouldn't be charity," Lucas protested. "You're the mother of my children. I want to take care of you all." Emma's expression hardened. "I've been taking care of us just fine for 10 years. I don't need your money or your guest house." Lucas felt a flash of frustration. "Why is it so hard for you to accept help? It's not like I'm asking for anything in return." "Aren't you?" Emma challenged, her blue eyes flashing. "Maybe not consciously, but deep down, don't you think your generosity comes with strings attached?" "What strings?" Lucas demanded, bewildered. "The expectation that I'll fall back into your arms," Emma said bluntly. "That I'll forget the past and we'll become one big happy family, living in luxury on your farm." Lucas was stunned into silence. Was that what he wanted? Of course it was. He still loved her, had never stopped loving her, but he hadn't thought he was being so transparent. "Is that so terrible?" he asked finally, his voice low. "Wanting my family together?" Emma's expression softened slightly. "No, it's not terrible. It's natural. But Lucas, we can't just pick up where we left off. Too much has happened. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, and neither are you." "I know that," Lucas said. "I don't expect things to be the same, but I do hope that maybe, with time—" Emma sighed. "I can't make any promises, Lucas. Right now, my priority is the boys, making sure they have a stable relationship with you, helping them adjust to having a father in their lives." "And us?" Lucas dared to ask. "Is there any chance for us?" Before Emma could answer, the back door burst open, and the twins tumbled in, breathless and excited. "Mom, Dad, there's a treehouse in the backyard," Jason exclaimed. "We didn't see it before because it's behind the big oak tree." "Can we go up in it?" James asked eagerly. "Please?" Emma looked relieved at the interruption. "Let me take a look at it first," she said, following the boys outside. It might not be safe. Lucas trailed after them, their conversation unfinished but not forgotten. In the far corner of the yard, partially hidden by a massive oak tree, stood a small treehouse. It was simple but appeared sturdy, with a ladder leading up to a platform enclosed by railings. Emma examined it carefully, testing the ladder rungs and the platform. "It seems solid enough," she admitted. "But be careful and no more than one of you up there at a time." The boys groaned at this restriction but agreed, then argued briefly over who would go first. Jason won with a quick round of rock, paper, scissors and scrambled up the ladder while James waited impatiently below. "It's awesome up here," Jason called down. "I can see the whole neighborhood." Lucas smiled at his excitement, then glanced at Emma. "We were having an important conversation," he said quietly. Emma nodded, her expression serious. "We were. But I don't have an answer for you, Lucas, not yet. This is all happening so fast." "It's been 10 years, Lucas pointed out. 10 years apart," Emma corrected him. "We're practically strangers now." "Then let's change that," Lucas suggested. "Let's get to know each other again." Emma studied him for a moment. "What are you proposing?" "Dinner," Lucas said. "Just the two. Go of us? No kids, no Martha, no distractions, a chance to talk, really talk." Emma hesitated. "I don't know, the boys—" "Martha would be happy to watch them for an evening," Lucas said quickly. "They love her, and her husband Joe is great with kids. He could teach them to play checkers or something." Emma still looked uncertain. "Lucas, I don't want to give you false hope." "It's just dinner," Lucas insisted, though they both knew it was more than that. A chance to talk about the boys, about arrangements going forward. We need to do that anyway, right? Finally, Emma nodded. All right, dinner, but just to talk. Just to talk, Lucas agreed, trying to contain his excitement. How about Friday night? I can pick you up at 7. I'll drive myself, Emma said firmly, and meet you at the restaurant. Lucas accepted this boundary with a nod. Fair enough. There's a nice place in town, Giovanni's. Do you know it? I've seen it, Emma acknowledged. 7 o'clock on Friday, I'll be there. The rest of the week dragged by at a snail's pace for Lucas. He continued his afternoon routine with the boys, cherishing every moment with them, but his mind frequently wandered to the upcoming dinner with Emma. What would he say to her? How could he convince her that he had changed, that he was worthy of a second chance? Should he even try, or would that only push her further away? By Friday evening, he was a bundle of nerves. He arrived at Giovanni's 20 minutes early, securing a quiet table in the corner and ordering a bottle of the white wine he remembered Emma preferring. At exactly 7 o'clock, she walked in. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. She wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked elegant and beautiful, and several heads turned as she made her way to his table. Lucas stood as she approached. "You look stunning," he said sincerely. A faint blush colored Emma's cheeks. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." Lucas had indeed made an effort, wearing a charcoal gray suit he normally reserved for business meetings. He pulled out Emma's chair for her, then returned to his own seat. "I hope you don't mind," he said, gesturing to the wine. "I remembered you liked this one." Emma looked surprised. "You remembered?" "Correctly, thank you." The waiter appeared to pour their wine and take their orders. Once he departed, an awkward silence fell between them. "So," Lucas began, "how are the boys settling into their new school?" Emma smiled, visibly relaxing at the safe topic. "Very well, Jason has already made the baseball team, and James's teacher says he has a real talent for art." "I've noticed that," Lucas said, nodding. "The way he studies things, really looks at them. He has an artist's eye. He gets—" "That from my father," Emma said. "Dad was a hobbyist painter." "I remember," Lucas said softly. "He did that beautiful landscape that hung in your apartment, the one with the mountains and the lake." Emma looked surprised again. "You remember that?" "I remember everything about." "You, Emma," Lucas admitted, "even after all these years." Emma took a sip of her wine, clearly uncertain how to respond to that. "The boys told me you promised to take them camping next weekend." Lucas accepted the change of subject gracefully. "If that's okay with you, there's a great spot by the lake on my property. Nothing fancy, just tents and a campfire, but I thought they might enjoy it." "They're very excited," Emma said. "They've never been camping before." Lucas felt a pang at this reminder of all the experiences he'd missed with his sons. "Well then, I'll make sure it's special," he promised. "You're welcome to join us," Emma shook her head. "I think this should be just you and the boys, a father-son's adventure." Their food arrived then, pasta for Emma, steak for Lucas, and they ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. "I've been meaning to ask," Lucas said, eventually. "The library job, is that what you were doing before you came here?" Emma nodded. "I have a master's in library science. I was the children's librarian at a public library in Seattle for the past 6 years." Lucas was impressed. "You always did love books. The boys mentioned you read to them every night." "It's our tradition," Emma said with a smile. "They're getting old enough to read on their own now, but they still like when I do the voices." Lucas could imagine it. Emma sitting on a bed, a twin on either side, her voice changing to match different characters in a story. The image made his heart ache with longing for what he'd missed. "Lucas," Emma said, interrupting his thoughts, "why did you never marry?" The question caught him off guard. "What makes you think I never married?" Emma gave him a look. "Martha would have mentioned it. And there are no photographs of a wife in your house, no feminine touches. Plus, the boys would have asked about—" "A stepmother." Lucas nodded, acknowledging her points. "You're right, I never married." "But why?" Emma pressed. "You're successful, attractive, presumably not impossible to live with. There must have been opportunities." Lucas considered how honest to be, then decided that only the complete truth would do. "Because none of them were you," he said simply. "Emma's." Eyes widened slightly, but before she could respond, a voice interrupted them. "Lucas Bennett, as I live and breathe, I thought that was you." Lucas looked up to see Patricia Morgan standing beside their table, elegant in an expensive dress, her perfectly coiffed blonde hair framing a face that was attractive despite the years and probable cosmetic procedures. "Patricia," Lucas said, rising politely, though his heart sank at the interruption. "How are you?" "Wonderful, darling," Patricia gushed, air-kissing his cheek. "Just back from Milan. The fashion shows were divine." Her gaze shifted to Emma, curious and slightly calculating. "And who is this?" "This is Emma Taylor," Lucas said. "Emma, this is Patricia Morgan. Her family owns the orchard that borders my property to the east." "How nice to meet you," Emma said politely, though Lucas could see her discomfort. Patricia's eyes narrowed slightly. "Taylor, why does that name sound familiar?" Then her face cleared. "Oh, weren't you the little secretary Lucas dated years ago, before he became so successful?" Lucas felt his jaw tighten. "Emma was never my secretary, Patricia. She was a teacher when we met." Patricia waved a dismissive hand. Of course, it was so long ago." She turned back to Lucas. "You must come to my fundraiser next weekend, darling. The governor will be there, and you know how he adores you." "I'm afraid I have plans," Lucas said firmly. "I'm taking my sons." "Camping? Sons?" Patricia's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose nearly to her hairline. "I didn't know you had children, Lucas." "There's a lot you don't know about me, Patricia," Lucas said coolly. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we were in the middle of dinner." Patricia looked offended but rallied quickly. "Of course, darling, we'll catch up soon." She nodded briefly at Emma. "Nice to meet you." As Patricia sashayed away to join a table of equally well-dressed people across the restaurant, Lucas turned apologetically to Emma. "I'm sorry about that. Patricia can be a snob," Emma suggested, a hint of amusement in her eyes. Lucas chuckled. "I was going to say overwhelming, but your word is more accurate." "So," Emma said, taking another sip of her wine. "You know the governor?" Lucas shrugged uncomfortably. "I've contributed to some campaigns, served on some agricultural committees. It's not a big deal." "The Lucas I knew wasn't interested in politics," Emma observed. "I'm still not really," Lucas admitted, "but sometimes it's necessary for business." He hesitated, then added, "And sometimes it helps to have influence when you want to protect something important." Emma looked intrigued. "Like what?" "There was a development company a few years back," Lucas explained. "They wanted to buy up several farms in the area, including Old Man Johnson's place, and turn them into a resort complex. It would have changed the whole character of the valley, not to mention the environmental impact on the watershed." "What did you do?" Emma asked. "I organized the local farmers," Lucas said. "Got the environmental groups involved. And yes, used some political connections to make sure the county commissioners understood what was at stake." "And the development?" "Never happened," Lucas said with satisfaction. "Johnson's farm is still a farm, though his grandson runs it now." Emma studied him thoughtfully. "You've changed, Lucas. The man I knew was focused on building his own empire, not protecting the community." "I'd like to think I've grown," Lucas said. "You were right all those years ago. I was too focused on success, on what I could get, what I could own. It took losing you to make me realize what really mattered." Emma looked away, her expression unreadable. "And what is that? What really matters to you now, Lucas?" "Family," he said without hesitation. "Community. Leaving something worthwhile behind, not just a bigger bank account." He paused, then added softly, You've always mattered, Emma, even when I was too stubborn and proud to admit it." Emma's eyes met his, and for a moment Lucas thought he saw a flicker of the old feelings there. But then she glanced at her watch and the moment was gone. "It's getting late," she said. "I should get back to the boys." Lucas tried to hide his disappointment. "Of course. Let me get the check." As they waited for the waiter to return with Lucas's credit card, Emma said, "Thank you for dinner." "It was nice catching up." "It was," Lucas agreed. "Maybe we could do it again sometime?" Emma hesitated, then nodded. "Maybe. We'll see." It wasn't the enthusiastic response he'd hoped for, but it wasn't a rejection either. Lucas would take it as a win. He walked Emma to her car, careful to maintain a respectful distance despite his desire to hold her hand, to pull her close, to kiss her like he'd dreamed of doing for 10 long years. "Good night, Lucas," Emma said as she unlocked her car door. "Good night, Emma," he replied. "Drive safely." He watched her drive away, his heart full of mixed emotions. The evening hadn't gone exactly as he'd hoped, but it was a start. Emma was beginning to see that he had changed, that he wasn't the same prideful, ambitious man who had let her walk away a decade ago. With that small comfort, Lucas returned to his own vehicle and headed home to his empty farmhouse, already looking forward to tomorrow, when he would see Emma and the boys again. Lucas was up early the next morning, unable to sleep as he replayed every moment of his dinner with Emma. He was in the barn checking on a mare about to foal when his phone rang. Seeing Emma's name on the screen sent his heart racing. "Good morning," he answered, trying to sound casual. "Everything okay?" "Actually, no," Emma said, her voice tense. "I just got a call from my mother. She's had a fall and broken her hip. They're taking her into surgery this afternoon." "I'm so sorry," Lucas said sincerely. He remembered Emma's mother, a kind woman who had always treated him like a son. "Is there anything I can do?" "I need to go to her," Emma said. "She lives in Portland, and I can't leave her alone after surgery. She'll need help during recovery." "Of course," Lucas agreed. "When do you leave?" "That's why I'm calling," Emma said, her voice softening slightly. "I can't take the boys with me. My mother's condo is small and she'll need quiet to recover. I was wondering if they could stay with me," Lucas finished for her. "Yes," Emma confirmed. "It would only be for a week, maybe 2 at most. Martha is there to help, and they're comfortable with you now. It seems like the best solution." Lucas's heart leapt at the opportunity, even as he felt guilty for being happy about something that resulted from Emma's mother's misfortune. "Of course they can stay with me," he said quickly. "I'd be honored to have them." "Thank you," Emma said, relief evident in her voice. "I've already spoken to the school. They know you'll be picking the boys up and that you're authorized to make decisions for them while I'm gone." "When do you leave?" Lucas asked. "This afternoon," Emma replied. "I've booked a flight out of Burlington at 3. I need to pack, explain to the boys, and get them settled at your place before I go." "So I'll come right over," Lucas offered. "Help you pack, get the boys' things together." "That would be helpful," Emma admitted. "Thank you, Lucas." An hour later, Lucas arrived at the rental house on Maple Street to find the twins sitting solemnly on the sofa while Emma moved quickly between rooms, packing a suitcase. "Dad?" the boys exclaimed when they saw him, their faces brightening somewhat. "Hey guys," Lucas said, giving them each a quick hug. "Your mom told me about your grandma. I'm sorry she's hurt." "Mom says she'll be okay," Jason said, though he looked worried. "But Mom has to go help her." "And we get to stay with you," James added, his tone suggesting that this was a silver lining to the situation. "That's right," Lucas confirmed. "We'll have a great time together while your mom helps your grandma get better." Emma appeared in the doorway looking harried but grateful. "Thank you for coming so quickly, Lucas." "Of course," he said. "What can I do to help?" For the next hour, Lucas assisted Emma in packing both her suitcase and bags for the boys, loading everything into his truck. The twins followed them around, alternating between excitement about staying at the farm and concern for their grandmother. "Now remember," Emma told the boys as they prepared to leave, "you need to be on your best behavior for Lucas and Martha. Do your homework, brush your teeth, go to bed on time, all the usual rules." "We will, Mum," the twins promised. "And you can call me any time," Emma continued. "Morning, night, whenever you want to talk. I'll have my phone with me always." "We know, Mum," Jason said with the exaggerated patience of a child who thinks his parent is being overprotective. Emma smiled and pulled both boys into a tight hug. "I'm going to miss you so much." "We'll miss you too," James said, his voice muffled against her shoulder. Lucas watched the scene with a lump in his throat. Despite the circumstances, he couldn't help feeling grateful for this opportunity to step fully into his role as a father. To have his sons living under his roof, even temporarily, was more than he could have hoped for just weeks ago. But he also recognized the weight of the responsibility Emma was entrusting him with. She was leaving her most precious treasures in his care, showing a level of trust he hadn't fully earned yet. "I won't let you down," he promised silently, both to Emma and to himself. As they drove to the airport later, the boys safely installed at the farm with Martha, Emma was quiet, her expression worried. "Your mother will be fine," Lucas assured her, reaching across to squeeze her hand briefly. "Hip surgeries are routine these days, and she'll have you to help her recover." Emma gave him a grateful smile. "I know. It's not just that, though. I've never been away from the boys for more than a day or two. It's going to be hard." "They'll miss you," Lucas acknowledged, "but they'll be okay. Martha and I will take good care of them, I promise." "I know you will," Emma said softly. "That's why I called you. I trust you with them." Lucas. Those simple words meant more to him than she could possibly know. "Thank you for that," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "It means everything to me." At the airport, Lucas insisted on carrying Emma's bag to the check-in counter. As they stood near the security line, the moment of parting had arrived. "Call me when you land," Lucas said, "and keep me updated on your mother's condition." "I will," Emma promised, "and you call me if there are any problems with the boys. Anything at all." "We'll be fine," Lucas assured her. "Try not to worry too much." Emma bit her lip, then suddenly stepped forward and hugged him. Lucas froze in surprise for a moment before wrapping his arms around her, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the warmth of her body against his. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest, "for everything." Then she pulled away, picked up her carry-on bag, and walked toward the security checkpoint without looking back. Lucas watched until she disappeared from view, his arms still tingling from the unexpected embrace. It wasn't a declaration of love, but it was something, a crack in the wall she'd built around her heart. As he drove back to the farm, back to his sons, Lucas felt a strange mixture of emotions. Concern for Emma and her mother, excitement about having the boys to himself, and beneath it all, a growing hope that maybe, just maybe, his family might one day be truly whole again. What he didn't know was that back in town, someone was already planning to destroy that hope. Someone who had watched him and Emma at the restaurant the night before, someone who had never forgiven Lucas for rejecting her years ago, someone who saw Emma's return as a threat to her own ambitions. Patricia Morgan sat in her elegantly appointed home office, tapping a perfectly manicured nail against her desk as she made a phone call. "I need everything you can find on an Emma Taylor," she told the private investigator on the other end of the line. "Especially anything unflattering. And I need it quickly." As she hung up, Patricia smiled coldly. Lucas Bennett had humiliated her when he chose that ordinary schoolteacher over her all those years ago. Now that the woman was back, with children, no less, Patricia saw an opportunity for long-awaited revenge. Lucas's empire and his heart would be vulnerable while Emma was away. And Patricia intended to take full advantage of that vulnerability. The next week brought Lucas face to face with the realities of full-time fatherhood. Each morning was a whirlwind of activity, waking the boys, making sure they ate breakfast, finding matching socks, packing lunches, and getting them to school on time. Each evening brought homework supervision, dinner, baths, and the bedtime story that Emma had made clear was non-negotiable. Despite the challenges, Lucas had never been happier. Every peanut butter sandwich he made, every math problem he helped, with every bedtime story he read, they were all opportunities to be the father he should have been for the past 10 years. Martha was an invaluable help, of course. Without her, Lucas wouldn't have known that Jason liked the crusts cut off his sandwiches, or that James needed his stuffed elephant to fall asleep. She guided Lucas through the unfamiliar terrain of parenting with patience and wisdom. "You're doing fine, Mr. Bennett," she assured him one evening after the boys had gone to bed. "Those boys adore you." "I just hope I don't mess anything up before Emma gets back," Lucas admitted. "I want her to see that I can do this, that I can be a real father to them." Martha smiled knowingly. "Is that all you want her to see?" Lucas felt his cheeks warm. "No," he admitted. "I want her to see that I've changed, that I could be the man she needs this time around." "Then just keep doing what you're doing," Martha advised. "Actions speak louder than words, especially with a woman like Miss Emma." Lucas took those words to heart. Each night, he called Emma to update her on the boys' day, making sure to include small details he knew would matter to her, how Jason had helped a classmate who fell on the playground, or how James had drawn a beautiful picture of the farm for his art class. Emma, in turn, shared updates about her mother, who was recovering well from surgery, but would need several more weeks of assistance. Their conversations were friendly and focused on the children, but occasionally late at night they would linger on the phone talking about other things, books they'd read, memories they shared, hopes for the future. It felt like they were slowly rebuilding something precious, one conversation at a time. Then, exactly 1 week after Emma's departure, Lucas received an unexpected visitor. He was in his office reviewing seed orders for the next planting season when Martha knocked on his door. "Mr. Bennett, Patricia Morgan is here to see you." Lucas frowned. Patricia was the last person he wanted to deal with right now. "Did she say what it's about?" "Something about a charity event," Martha replied, her tone making it clear what she thought of Patricia. "Shall I tell her you're busy?" Lucas was tempted, but he knew Patricia well enough to know she wouldn't give up easily. "No, I'll see her, but please interrupt in 15 minutes with an important call, real or not." Martha nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "Yes, sir." Patricia swept into the office moments later, expensively dressed and wearing enough perfume to make Lucas's eyes water. "Lucas, darling," she gushed, leaning in to kiss his cheek before he could avoid it. "How are you?" "Fine, thank you," Lucas said, remaining behind his desk. "What can I do for you, Patricia?" Patricia settled herself gracefully in a chair, crossing her legs to show them to best advantage. "I'm chairing the hospital charity gala this year," she explained. "It's next Saturday night, and I simply must have you on the guest list. The governor will be there and several state senators. It would be the perfect opportunity for you to discuss that water rights bill you were so concerned about." Lucas had to admit she had a point. The proposed legislation would affect every farmer in the valley, and he'd been working hard to gather support for amendments that would protect small family farms. "I appreciate the invitation," he said cautiously, "but I have my sons staying with me right now. I can't leave them alone for an evening." Patricia's eyebrows rose. "Ah yes, your surprise children. How convenient that they appeared just as you're reaching the age where a man starts thinking about his legacy." Lucas felt his jaw tighten. "What exactly are you implying, Patricia?" She waved a dismissive hand. "Nothing, darling. It's just curious, isn't it? Their mother never mentioned them to you for 10 years, and now suddenly she's back in your life, right after that profile of you in Forbes listing your net worth. Emma isn't after my money," Lucas said coldly. "She's never asked me for a penny." "Not yet," Patricia said silkily. "But mark my words, once she has her hooks in you again, that will change. Women like her always have an angle." Lucas stood up, his patience gone. "I think you should leave." "Now?" Patricia remained seated, reaching into her designer handbag. "Before I go, I thought you might be interested in this." She pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the desk. "Just a little background information on your children's mother. Always good to know who you're dealing with." Lucas stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. "What is this?" "Let's call it due diligence," Patricia said. "Open it after I leave if you prefer, but I think you'll find it enlightening." A knock at the door interrupted them, and Martha appeared. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett, but you have that important call from the bank president." "Thank you, Martha," Lucas said, grateful for the escape she'd provided. Patricia was just leaving. Patricia stood gracefully, seemingly unbothered by the abrupt dismissal. "Think about the gala, won't you? And do look at that file. Knowledge is power, darling." After she sashayed out, Lucas picked up the envelope, tempted to throw it unopened into the trash, but curiosity got the better of him. What could Patricia possibly have found out about Emma? Inside was a private investigator's report, complete, with photographs. Emma going to work at the library in Seattle, Emma and the boys in a park, Emma having coffee with a man, an attractive man about her age who seemed very comfortable with her. There were several photos of them together, spanning what appeared to be a few months. The report stated that the man was Dr. Michael Harmon, a pediatrician who had dated Emma for nearly a year before she moved back to Valley Springs. Lucas felt a twist of jealousy, followed immediately by shame. What Emma did during their years apart was none of his business. Of course, she had dated other men. He would have been more surprised if she hadn't. But there was more. The report detailed Emma's finances, her modest salary, her small savings account, the scholarships she'd applied for to fund her master's degree, the student loans she was still paying off. The clear implication was that Emma was struggling financially and could be after Lucas's money. But Lucas saw something different in those pages. He saw a woman who had worked incredibly hard to support herself and her children, who had improved her education while raising twins alone, who had never once sought financial help from their wealthy father even when things were tight. It only made him admire her more. The last page of the report was a copy of an email Emma had sent to Dr. Harmon just before leaving Seattle. In it, she explained that she was taking the boys to meet their father, that she felt they deserved to know him and that she hoped it would be good for them. There was nothing about rekindling a romance with Lucas, nothing about seeking financial support, just a mother doing what she thought was right for her children. Lucas put the report back in the envelope, disgusted with Patricia and with himself for even looking at it. Emma deserved better than to have her privacy invaded like this. He picked up his phone and called Emma without hesitation. "Is everything okay?" She answered immediately, concern in her voice. "Are the boys all right?" "They're fine," Lucas assured her. "They're at school. He paused, unsure how to explain why he was calling. "I just wanted to hear your voice." "Oh," Emma said, sounding surprised but not displeased. "That's nice. How's your mother doing?" Lucas asked. "Better every day," Emma replied. "The doctor is pleased with her progress." "That's good," Lucas said. Then, taking a deep breath, he added, "Emma, there's something I need to tell you." He explained about Patricia's visit and the envelope, not sparing himself in the telling. "I shouldn't have looked at it," he finished. "It was an invasion of your privacy, and I'm sorry." There was silence on the other end of the line for a long moment. "Why are you telling me this?" Emma finally asked. "Because I don't want secrets between us," Lucas said honestly. "Not anymore. I want you to know that Patricia might try to cause trouble, and also that I don't care what was in that report. It doesn't change how I feel about you." "And how exactly do you feel, Lucas?" Emma challenged softly. "It was now or never. I love you, Emma. I never stopped loving you. These past weeks with you and the boys, they've been the happiest of my life. I know I have no right to ask for another chance, but I'm asking anyway. Another silence, this one longer and heavier, with unspoken emotions." "I need to think about this," Emma said at last. "And we shouldn't discuss it over the phone. We'll talk when I get back." "When will that be?" Lucas asked, his heart pounding. "My mother is doing well enough that I could leave her with a home health aide," Emma said. "I could fly back this weekend." "That would be wonderful," Lucas said, trying not to sound too eager. "The boys miss you terribly." "Just the boys?" Emma asked, and he could hear a smile in her voice. "I miss you too," Lucas admitted. "More than I can say." "I'll let you know my flight details," Emma promised. "And Lucas, thank you for being honest about the report." After they hung up, Lucas sat for a long moment, replaying the conversation in his mind. He hadn't planned to declare his love like that, but once the words were out, he felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Whatever happened now, at least Emma knew the truth. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Lucas took the boys camping as promised, spending a night under the stars by the lake, teaching them to build a campfire and telling them ghost stories that were just scary enough to be exciting without causing nightmares. On Saturday morning, they returned to the house tired, dirty, and completely happy. "That was the best camping trip ever," Jason declared as they unloaded their gear. "Even better than all the other camping trips we've never been on," James agreed with a grin. Lucas laughed and ruffled their hair. "We'll go again soon," he promised. "Maybe next time your mom can come too." "When is Mom coming home?" Jason asked, suddenly serious. "I miss her." "Me too," James added, his lower lip trembling slightly. "She's coming home tomorrow," Lucas told them. "Her flight gets in at 2 o'clock. We'll all go to the airport to pick her up." The twins cheered at this news, their momentary sadness forgotten. "Now go get cleaned up," Lucas instructed. "Martha has lunch waiting, and you two smell like campfire smoke and bug spray." As the boys raced into the house, Lucas took a moment to appreciate the simple joy of fatherhood. How had he lived without this for so long? After lunch, Lucas was helping the boys with a puzzle when Martha appeared in the doorway of the family room, a strange expression on her face. "Mr. Bennett, there's someone here to see you." "Who is it?" Lucas asked, already rising to his feet. Martha seemed hesitant. "It's Mrs. Taylor, Miss Emma's mother." Lucas froze in shock. Emma's mother? But she's supposed to be in Portland, recovering. "From hip surgery." "Yes, sir," Martha agreed. "That's what makes it so peculiar." A terrible thought struck Lucas. Had something happened to Emma? Was her mother here to deliver bad news? "Boys, stay here with Martha," he said, his voice tense. "I'll be right back." Lucas hurried to the front entryway, where an elegant older woman stood leaning on a cane. Her resemblance to Emma was unmistakable, though her hair was silver instead of blonde. "Mrs. Taylor," Lucas said, extending his hand. "This is unexpected. Please come sit down." "Thank you, Lucas," she said, allowing him to lead her to the living room. "And please call me Helen." Once she was settled comfortably on the sofa, Lucas perched on the edge of an armchair, anxiety coursing through him. "Is Emma all right?" Helen looked surprised. "Emma? She's fine, as far as I know. Should she not be?" Relief flooded through Lucas. "No, it's just, you're supposed to be in Portland, recovering from surgery. When Martha said you were here, I thought something might have happened to Emma." Helen's expression changed to one of confusion. "Surgery?" "I haven't had any surgery, Lucas. I've been on a Mediterranean cruise for the past month. Just got back. Yesterday." Lucas felt as though the floor had dropped out from under him. "But Emma went to Portland to take care of you. You broke your hip. You had surgery." "I most certainly did not," Helen said firmly. "I've been dancing on the decks of a cruise ship, enjoying my retirement. I have no idea why Emma would tell you such a thing." Lucas's mind raced. If Emma hadn't gone to Portland to care for her mother, where had she been for the past 10 days? And why had she lied about it? "Mrs. Taylor, Helen, where does Emma live?" "In Seattle?" he asked, a terrible suspicion forming. "She doesn't live in Seattle anymore," Helen replied. "She moved to Portland about 6 months ago, took a job at the Central Library there. Said she wanted to be closer to me. Portland, not Seattle." Emma had been in Portland all along, but not caring for her injured mother. "Do you know Dr. Michael Harmon?" Lucas asked, dreading the answer. Helen brightened. "Michael? Of course." "Lovely. Man, he moved to Portland around the same time Emma did. They dated for a while in Seattle, you know. I always thought they might get serious, but Emma was hesitant to commit." Each word was like a knife to Lucas's heart. Had it all been a lie? Had Emma come here only to introduce the boys to their father, intending all along to return to Portland and her relationship with Dr. Harmon? "Lucas," Helen was watching him with concern. "Are you all right? You've gone quite pale." "I'm fine," he managed to say. "It's just been a surprise seeing you here." "I wanted to meet my grandsons," Helen explained. "Emma told me she'd brought the boys to meet you. I was in the area visiting my sister in Burlington, and I thought I'd stop by." She looked around. "Are they here, the boys?" Lucas nodded mechanically. "Yes, they're in the family room. I'll get them for you." He rose and walked to the family room, his mind still reeling from the revelations. The twins looked up from their puzzle as he entered. "Boys," he said, forcing a smile, "there's someone very special here to meet you. Your grandmother, your mother's mother." The twins' eyes widened. "Really?" Jason exclaimed. "We have another grandma." "Come and meet her," Lucas said, leading them back to the living room. The next hour passed in a blur. Helen was charming with the boys, asking them questions about school and their interests, telling them stories about Emma as a little girl that made them giggle. Lucas sat quietly, participating in the conversation when necessary, but mostly watching and thinking. Why had Emma lied? What was she really doing in Portland? And most importantly, was she coming back? As if in answer to his unspoken questions, the front door opened and a familiar voice called, "Lucas, boys, I'm home." Everyone in the living room froze. Then Helen, said quietly. Well, this should be interesting. Emma appeared in the doorway, a suitcase in hand, her face flushed from the drive. She stopped dead when she saw the tableau before her, Lucas, her sons, and her very much not injured mother all staring at her. "Mom," she gasped, "what are you doing here?" "I might ask you the same question, dear," Helen replied calmly. "I thought you were in Portland, taking care of me after my hip surgery. Imagine my surprise to learn I'd been injured without my knowledge." The color drained from Emma's face. She looked at Lucas, who met her gaze steadily, his expression guarded. "Boys," Helen said, rising smoothly to her feet, "why don't you show me around this lovely farm? I'd love to see those horses you were telling me about." "But Mom just got home," James protested, "and she and your father need to have a grown-up conversation," Helen said firmly. "We'll give them some privacy. Come along now." With suspicious glances over their shoulders, the twins reluctantly followed their grandmother out of the room. When they were gone, silence fell between Lucas and Emma. "You lied to me," Lucas said finally, his voice flat. Emma set down her suitcase and sank onto the sofa. "Yes." "Why?" Emma ran a hand through her hair, a gesture of frustration Lucas remembered well. "It's complicated." "Try me," Lucas said, his tone harder than he'd intended. Emma sighed deeply. "When I came here, I only planned to stay long enough for the boys to meet you, to establish a relationship that could continue with visits, phone calls, that sort of thing. I didn't intend for me to start having feelings again," Lucas suggested when she faltered. Emma nodded reluctantly. "It scared me, Lucas. I've spent 10 years building a life without you, convincing myself I was over you. And then seeing you with the boys, seeing how you've changed, it confused me. I needed time to think. So you invented a crisis and ran." "Away," Lucas said. "Why Portland? To see Dr. Harmon?" Emma's head snapped up. "How do you know about Michael?" "Patricia's investigator was thorough," Lucas reminded her. "Are you still seeing him?" "No," Emma said firmly. "We broke up months ago before I ever decided to bring the boys to meet you. He's a good man, but—" She hesitated, then finished. "He wasn't you." Hope flickered in Lucas's chest, but he tamped it down. "So, why go to Portland at all? Why not just tell me you needed time to think?" "Because you would have tried to convince me to stay," Emma said simply. "And I might have let you. I needed to get away, to be sure of what I really wanted." "And what do you want, Emma?" Lucas asked, his heart in his throat. Emma looked at him, directly, her blue eyes clear and honest. "I want what's best for my sons, for our sons." "And what is that?" Lucas pressed. "A father who loves them. A stable home, a family." Emma took a deep breath. "I thought I could give them most of that on my own, but seeing you with them these past weeks—" "They need you, Lucas. And I think maybe I do too." Lucas crossed the room in 2 strides, kneeling before her and taking her hands in his. "Say that again." Emma's lips curved in a small smile. "I need you, Lucas Bennett, despite my best efforts not to." "I love you, Emma," Lucas said fervently. "I never stopped, not for one day in 10 years. Please say you'll give us another chance. Say you and the boys will stay." "What about your pride?" Emma challenged gently. "What about my independence? We're still the same people in many ways, Lucas. How do we know it won't end the same way?" "Because we've both learned," Lucas said. "Me most of all. I know now what really matters. Not success, not money, not pride, just love. Love for our sons and love for you." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry I lied to you. I was confused and afraid." "I forgive you," Lucas said without hesitation. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "No more running away. Whatever problems we face them together." Emma nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I promise." Lucas leaned forward and kissed her then, a kiss 10 years in the making. It was like coming home, like finding a piece of himself he hadn't known was missing. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathless. "Does this mean you'll marry me?" Lucas asked, only half joking. Emma laughed through her tears. "Let's take it one step at a time, Farmer. But yes, I think we're heading in that direction." They were still sitting close together, foreheads touching, when the twins burst back into the room, unable to contain their curiosity any longer. "Are you guys getting married?" Jason asked bluntly. Jason, Emma exclaimed, embarrassed. What? He defended. Grandma said you probably would. Did she now? Emma said, giving Lucas a rueful look. My mother always did think she knew everything. Is she right? James asked hopefully. Are we going to live here on the farm with Dad? Lucas looked at Emma, letting her take the lead on this one. We're going to be a family, Emma told the boys carefully. Your dad and I are figuring things out. But yes, I think we'll be staying in Valley Springs. The twins cheered and launched themselves at their parents, creating a jumble of hugs and laughter that was only made more chaotic when Helen appeared in the doorway, smiling smugly at the scene. I told you boys your mother would make the right decision, she said, winking at Lucas. She was always smart, even if she is stubborn. Mom, Emma protested, though she was laughing. What? It's true, Helen said unrepentantly. Now who's hungry? I think this calls for a celebration dinner. As they all moved toward the kitchen, Lucas held Emma back for a moment. Are you sure about this? He asked quietly. About us? Emma smiled up at him, more relaxed and happy than he'd seen her since her return. I'm sure about one thing. I love you, Lucas Bennett. The rest we can figure out together. And for Lucas, that was enough. The woman he loved was back in his arms. His sons were under his roof. The family he'd thought lost to him forever was finally whole. Outside, the sun was setting over his fields, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. But the most beautiful sight in the world was right here in his arms. Emma, his true north, his heart's compass, finally home where she belonged. The end.